So, can you grace us with your prayer?
Amen.
This is magazine.
We all stand, please.
The blue light. Turn, push it up.
Yes. Let us just bow our heads for a time of prayer. Gracious and merciful God, we give you praise, we give you glory, we give you honor. Lord God, as we assemble here, O God, to discuss the business of this third mission, O God, I pray that everything that is done and said here tonight will be done in order, O Father God, and that your name will be glorified in all this. Just bless everything that is being said, O Father God. Bless the words that will come from your residents, O Father God. We pray that everything that is done is received, O Father God, in such a way that you will receive glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Good evening. This evening I have in our presence Honorable Vincent Wheatley, the Minister for Health and Social Development, person who is responsible for the subject under which you're here. I have also Honorable Lorna Smith, Territorial at Large member. I saw Mr. Nader, Deputy Speaker. At the back. It's right in. Deputy Speaker is here also this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. I purposely did not publicize this meeting either in social media, nor the airwaves. I try to just do it within the community because I really believe that the members of the community should be heard uninterrupted. You should be heard in a way that your voices carry, and that it's the best way I saw justice being carried out as far as this matter is concerned. We are here to discuss an issue that has popped up in your community, Harvard's. I am as much alien to the situation as you are, but there's a big difference. The big difference is that you live there. I don't live there. I live in the community, yes, but I don't live on the spot. And I think your voices must be heard, and it is valid, and we should understand your concern and action should be taken. I can't say that I hadn't heard about, I heard about this development. I've heard about it. And I asked the question as to why the proprietor of the estate would wish to engage in an issue that is bound to be controversial, knowing full well that you and I and everyone, including himself, know that there are other designs for the area, which in themselves will raise controversy. So the question was, why would you want to start now with something like this? I personally thought the matter had gone to bed until someone sent me a message informing me that something had started in the area. The most recent message that I got regarding this issue is that they show up like Christmas Eve to bring the vehicles on site. They show up at night to bring them on site. And strange occurrences such as that. I understand very well And I think that it's nothing that's lost on anyone, including the proprietor of the site, that your property will devalue, not, I wouldn't say exponentially, but yes, it would devalue arithmetically with anything like this in the community. I'd love the minister to say something, to speak to you, addressing the matter. I don't want to take up too much time. Me speaking or him speaking, I want to hear from you this evening. Thank you.
Pleasant good evening to everyone. I too want to welcome Honorable Smith, who gave me numerous calls, as you called her, Honorable Mater, for being here tonight. As the member has said, I am the minister responsible for this subject. I'll just give you a brief background as to how I think we got where we are, unfortunately. Some of you haven't seen for a long time. It's a pity we have to meet under these circumstances. We'd rather be meeting under different circumstances. So the derelict cars have, I think since 2017, been stored down at Poplar Pond, Ashley Ritter's place. I was made to understand that he sent a letter to the ministry informing the ministry that they must vacate his property, and he gave them a date of December 31st, 2024. The ministry, through the Department of Waste Management, subsequently sent out a tender for persons to bid on receiving the derelict cars. Number of bids were received, and the site you want was the site of the winning bid. A contract was issued to the Deputy Governor's Office. I wish I really had more knowledge because it's not something I deal with directly. And like, I think Honorable Fraser said, it did happen quite quickly. That the cars would move, because of that deadline of December 31st, they vacate from Ashley Ritter's property to this property here. When I heard about it, I said to them, "You're asking for a heap of trouble." So I'm not surprised that we're here tonight because of this. I'm here to listen, and what I can assure you, since this has happened the way it happened, I've got numerous calls from your representative, from Honorable Smith, from Honorable Mater, and from quite a few of you, except in this room. And I can assure you I'm furiously looking for an alternative location, but bear in mind it is challenging as nobody wants this in their backyard. I can assure you as quickly as I can get this matter resolved, it will be resolved in a way that you will be pleased. I mean, I wouldn't want it in my backyard either, but the fact remains we do produce a lot of derelicts in this country, and they have to be placed somewhere. Hopefully it's not a place or the way it will be handled going forward. We do have a waste management strategy that speaks to this. It's not quite fully enforced as yet, but I think we should avoid this happening going forward. I look forward to your comments, your concerns, which I will note, but I can assure you your comments, whatever they are, will not fall on deaf ears. There's a reason why I'm here. I came over from Virginia just for this meeting because I thought it was important as a minister to be here to hear firsthand from you, the residents who have to live with this. Again, I'm not going to say much more than that. I'll listen very keenly, I'll take notes, but I can assure you at the end of the day, I will be doing what I can to bring a quick solution to this situation. Thank you.
Okay, if anyone wishes to voice their opinion, give a comment, make a statement, they're free to do so.
Good evening, Ken Hodge. I live in Havers. Just a comment from me. It seems to me that things that no one else wants, all things that no one else wants, comes to the 3rd district, as if we are a district for rejects. And that's not the case. Yes, the garbage is there, that's one thing.
And now we've moved the cars from where they were and bring them right in front of our house without anybody telling us. I was driving to church and I just by chance to look to my left and I saw a mountain. I said, Lord, what happened? A mountain of cars. Now in any other place we go, and I've been to many, I'll tell you, I've been to many, where they have waterfronts, developments on reclaimed land. What they put there is not that. They put something that will enhance what's above it. Something that when you look down, you say, that's a nice thing. Yeah? That's added value to where I am. This here, I'll be honest, honorables. We ain't going to accept any sort of, well, we're going to get it, we know it's here temporary, so we know what that means. That means permanent. Yeah? We ain't settling for that. It don't belong there. I believe that place have a design for what's supposed to go there, and it ain't that. I understand when you give anybody permission to do a reclamation, it's supposed to have specific things what you can do on that reclamation. And I show them what it is. We can't accept that. I won't accept it. That's my position. I won't accept it. I won't accept it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lori Omri, Havers, right down at the bottom. Dead in front of it. Question, who does the property belong to? Because that was not mentioned.
I don't know. According to the contract which the Deputy Premier actually has, I don't have, it's between an agreement between Jahphix, Jabba RXS Limited, and the government of the Virgin Islands. Parcel 146, block 2634B. It's a company that owns the property.
Say it again, please.
The company is called JABBERXS Limited. And the block of the parcel number is 146, block 2634.
And the owners and or directors of that company, do you know? Does it belong to one? Does it belong to, I hear it belongs to the owner of TAJ? Who does it belong to?
So,
that's my first question. My second question is, do we not have zoning laws? I know we have zoning laws, but do we not adhere to zoning laws in the BVI?
I do not think we actually have zoning laws. It's been a vexing issue.
Don't have zoning laws?
I don't think that we do. So it's a vexing issue for the territory. Because I too was a victim of exactly what you were saying.
Well, before I came here, I asked ChatGPT and I asked Copilot, so I guess they're wrong that we don't have zoning laws.
I don't know of any zoning laws that's in effect.
Thank you.
And just to make one correction, the property that's closed on is not a reclamation. Reclamation is on the other side. There are two pieces of property. That's not a reclamation. Thank you.
First of all, that pile of cars is much smaller there than it is now. There's a lot more cars there now than there are in that picture. And secondly...
Sorry, I didn't get your name, sorry. I didn't get your name.
Lynn Johnston. That doesn't reflect how it is right now. And secondly, it looks as though it's all on the reclaimed side, not reserved before. Do you know who owns which bit? Or it's jointly owned?
One's what?
I was just saying, the cars look as though they're on the reclaimed side, not on the original side that was there before.
They're on the reclaimed side?
It looks as though it's on the reclaimed side, because where the trees are, this was the original.
That's not what I was told.
Yeah.
Okay. If they're on the reclaimed site, it means that there's a problem because they can't use the reclaimed site for that purpose.
Exactly. So that's what I said.
The leaser, is the lease, the document I have isn't signed, but the name as the leaser is Shah Mohammed.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
I don't think I was past it.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ingrid Moses Jahphix, and I live at Havers. And I'm just going to give some context. So I had a nice Christmas lunch by my house on Christmas Day. Everybody left around after 9.
Yeah.
At 7 a.m. on Boxing Day morning, I heard heavy equipment outside. I couldn't figure out what was going on, but I looked out. So I saw all the excavators doing something, but I didn't quite know what was happening. Boxing Day was the Friday. Saturday happened Sunday. My brother woke me up at 7, livid, because he gets up early and sits on his porch and absorbs the view. And for those, everybody here just about lives Havers. I will tell you what my view and my brother's view is. It's from Virgin Garden in the east to St. John in the west, unfettered access. He was so upset because he looked outside and then he saw the cars. He didn't realize this Saturday what was happening because they were grading the land. And since then, they've been coming. It's like in the cloak of night. Only the people who live can see. And it's under reclaimed land because the people who live up there know exactly what transpired with the land. We knew before it was reclaimed, when Robert Wong owned it, when he had his wedding there, he put up the gazebo. And then ownership changed, so I know who Jahphix is. That's Sean Mohammed. I know that. And they started reclaiming that since that acquisition. But the cars are there. Now what bothers me is that nobody had the wherewithal to even consult with the people who live at Havers or to do any assessment. Since the hurricanes, 2 years after the hurricane, we started getting affected by the smoke from the incinerator and the burning garbage. That never happened from the time I was there. Nobody did anything, and now that has appeared, and we know what happened. I respect and I must thank Honorable Fraser for arranging the meeting, because I saw him personally on Saturday, and I spoke to him about it, and he said right there he's going to commit to a meeting. I was just waiting for the Havers community to come back after the Christmas break, because I know a lot of people were away. So I was seated for days, for weeks, waiting to see when everybody come back, and they looked out and they actually saw it. No environmental impact assessment has been done. Ken talked about making the 3rd district a dump, so we now have another industrialized area in the prime property of District 3. At the bottom, it is unbelievable. And Honorable Fraser, you're talking about it's going to affect the appraisal for the property, but not in you said what? You used 2 words. Exponentially. Let me break it down. It's going to affect everybody in the Havers community. Why? Because remember, I have a mortgage. It's all driven by the appraisal value and the equity that you have in your property. Right now, I'm supposed to have an appraisal done. I can't, because the appraiser, one of them several weeks ago, started dump and called and asked, you see the dump, you see what happening over there, you know your property is going to get affected. But it's even more real than that, because you see, if you have a mortgage and you know what your equity is in your property, if you want to do any financing now, and you have an appraisal and your property value has decreased and it is below what your mortgage is for, you have a shortfall. So you have to now pay in the money to make sure it comes back up. So for me, it has to go because it's a health risk, it's a financial risk, and so many other risks that I can't even articulate. But I know the way that I've seen things happen, temporary becomes permanent. We can't afford for that to happen. And I respect the two ministers, but y'all playing cloak and dagger. Because I know the contract is signed. Probably not Honorable Fraser, but that agreement was signed. I didn't even know who was behind it until I saw an article on the online news that talked about a misunderstanding or disagreement with where the existing location was for the cars to be stored, and they had found a new location through a tender process, and it was now being stored in Upper Parkwood Pond. That disturbed me even more. That was the exact language. It's an article and Vino. And it was sent to me as Upper Parkwood Pond. In all my years since I born, I never heard of Upper or Lower Parkwood Pond. It's Parkwood Pond. But they deliberately did not use hay balls because it would raise a red flag. Everybody knows when you see hay balls is a community that we don't have an official homeowners association, but there are unspoken laws, and it extends to persons in the Tour district as well. Because we're thinking it affects just us, it's going to affect, I was in a community meeting for Naniki, it's going to affect Naniki as well, it's going to affect every single resident in the Tour district. So for me, this is personal because it's affecting me, and it's affecting, I know, everybody else in here. You may not think about it now, because you may not have the direct view, but it affects all the properties up there. When you're doing appraisals, when you have to do financial dealings, whatever transactions you may want to do, it has an impact. That's why the realtor called, because he expressed concern about it. So I'm asking Honorable Deputy Premier, Honorable Minister for help, the two at-large candidates that are here, please move with haste, because we all know that this is wrong. And I don't want it to come because it's going to get there. I was just waiting to get people so that they're fully aware, but we are going to have to do what you have to do, because it can't stay there. You cannot enter into a contract for an industrial site and have it placed on a residential site. That development, I was also here several years ago. We know what the development that's supposed to go there. It's a hotel with a marina, with condominium. No.
So that's the question I want to ask. Has that contract been changed? What has happened to that previous contract?
I'll turn over to you, Rose.
That's the question I'm asking. That's the question I'm asking. Has it been changed?
You know what, transparent administration.
I don't see it.
This one thing. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ingrid asked and stated, she asked valid questions, and she stated a lot that is valid, very valid. I'm at the bottom of papers. A lot of you are at the top of papers. Y'all are blessed. So blessed. I'm at the bottom. I get the dust. I get the scent of the machineries. I get the sound effects is louder, I think, at the bottom. And the noise coming from the individuals as they're doing the work, it's horrendous. And then the rest of y'all get everything else that follows up. I get it hard at the bottom. Such a wonderful life at the bottom.
The question you asked if what plan has changed.
Yes. When Mr. Wong, we came in here years ago, and Mr. Wong was talking about putting up a beautiful marina with a beautiful hotel, and it was going to be great, and we're all going to be so happy. Has that yes.
So
have a restaurant, everybody have jobs.
So I had seen that plan many years ago.
Yes.
Under the
Has
new,
that plan changed?
under the new ownership, I cannot see. In fact, so the property has about 2 or 3 parts. There's a land-based part and there's a reclamation part. As far as I am aware, the reclamation part has not been approved by cabinet. As far as I am aware, because when it came up, I asked that question, how can you lease land that's not yours? That was before cabinet. I was told, I stand to be corrected, that where the cars are was not the reclaimed part, it was the other part. That's what I was told. I do not know, I haven't double checked. I'm just telling you what I was told. I have to go by what you said. You live there, I don't live there. I don't go by what I was told. I'll have to go back and do my research now.
Just one quick thing that somebody else had mentioned to me, which I work in the tourist business, so it affects me, but somebody mentioned they have people going past on the ferries, tourists coming in, and the first thing they see is this mountain of cars, and it doesn't look very good for Tortola. And that is after the government is saying everything has to be beautiful, pretty, blah, 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 it's getting tourism done. Doesn't make sense.
My name is Kevin Ketchum. I've been here a long time, probably as long as Dennis. But William Ketchum. I think we all feel that this is wrong, but there should have been many permits that were needed to do that. You don't get a permit to put a dump here and then just move it over there. There's serious, I think. It's not that we just asked him to do something. I think one is there has to be a cost, and it costs it daily, and it costs it, otherwise it will be there forever. I mean, where else can he put it? And that shouldn't be but that shouldn't be our problem. That's his problem. And for him to give you the finger by doing that is unbelievable. Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year, for those of you I haven't seen. I actually was amazed when I was driving towards Coxie to Stacey Mayfield, territorial representative. Good evening again. I was amazed when I was driving to see my favorite senior citizens over the holiday down in Coxie when I saw the mounting, as it is being called, of cars appearing. I am solution oriented, so Minister, if you could, is there a timeline? Because I would imagine that the cars where they were first, there was a timeline for them to be shipped up. What's that timeline? I think that would give some of us in the room some sort of a sense of what we're looking at. And secondly, there was a tender process. I know in November during standing finance, this was mentioned and it was asked, where is the site? We didn't get a response. But because it went through a tender process, there are other sites. Are those sites viable? Can it be done? Is that something that's going to be examined? Thank you.
Yeah, there were more than one person bid. I think this one was probably chosen because it's probably the easiest one. I can't say why. I didn't see the process. I was not part of the process. I cannot say. What other sites I don't recall. The challenge we have, I don't think any of the sites they chose were acceptable to anyone. But because of the deadline, they had to make a move. I can assure you I've started looking for an alternative site. I'm hoping to have that site regularized, fingers crossed, before 15th of February. Listen, fingers crossed, I will get through with that alternative site and I'll move the stuff immediately. I hear you loud and clear. It's very unfortunate that we're here for this. But I'm working assiduously to make sure I get this problem rectified as quickly as possible. The site I'm looking at, I'm not sure if there will be similar objections, but I think there should not be as many. It's a bit out of the way. Because I'm trying to find a site for this. It's not easy. It's not easy, and I really feel the pain of the representative who has to deal with this for a very long time. I remember the very first one being at Prospect, the very first dump site, way back when, which is in the 3rd district. And I think it was Pastor Hart said, it's in the 3rd district where you put what you don't want. So I don't want to be part of that way. That is not in a place like this. With the person that stay in this room who worked hard and invested in their properties, have it devalued, have views obstructed, and so forth. So I will not sleep until I get it solved. I think I can get it solved rather quickly. Because the day I saw this thing, last Thursday I saw the contract, I was called about it. I was totally, because the contract didn't come through my office, came to the Deputy Governor's office because they were leased. So I wasn't aware of this until this last week. So yes, the other sites I think would be equally problematic, but I'm looking at the other sites.
I just wanted to ask why these cars haven't been shipped out yet on a barge. There's plenty more old things just lying around everywhere, boats and cars and whatever. I've called about 7 or 8 times to get a car moved, starting from 18, 20 months ago when there was the first system of doing that. Oh, we'll get back to you. I call again. I send an email. Get absolutely no response at all. I'd like to know who's in charge really, and when are they going to get rid of all the old stuff?
Yes, so thanks for reminding me. I forgot a part of the question. These cars being here, we're hoping to move them off Mr. Richard's site. The collection of derelict cars was supposed to start next week. Yes. Next week. So until we start getting more derelict cars, yes, more cars is possible there. Yeah, this is one of the business back at Richard's place. We haven't started the collection of derelict cars yet. That is to start end of January into February. So your meeting is quite timely. Oh, sorry, Marcus Solomon, I'll give you his number afterwards in charge of the derelict moving. Yeah, okay, I'll give you the number.
Good evening, everybody. And I'd like to thank Honorable Fraser for putting this meeting together. He did not invite me, but somebody told me, and one of my colleagues told me, and I'm here. This is time for government to be in the sunshine. This project was tendered. There were 3 tenders, I think.
Yeah, 3.
First of all, I am offended, as I believe everybody else in this room is, that we had to dig to find out who the real person is, who the beneficial owner is. It is not right. I saw this heap. In fact, somebody sent me the photo on the 3rd of January. And I immediately sent the photo to the minister responsible. And I did not receive a satisfactory answer. It was like, we're going to have to move these things, and we can't please everybody. So, I want to know, to the extent that you can tell us, where is the other place that you're moving them to, if you plan to move them at all? I also want to know when this government is going to grow some balls and exercise what they know as eminent domain. The derelict vehicles were in a location, and yes, the owner, I'm sure, said he wanted them moved by a certain time. But until you could find a location that was suitable, they could have stayed there if the government had the balls to do what they needed to do. I think it is a disgusting sight from land and on sea. And I have to say, I have no faith in this thing about the 15th of February being the date for moving them. I have no faith in this. It is wrong. it is deplorable, and they need to be moved back to where they were until you can find a suitable location. And for you to have had 3 tenders, which means that Cabinet would have seen it, would have known what was happening and who was getting this contract, thank you. Cabinet would have known. And you're going to tell me that the persons up in Havers, the persons next door, the persons who are using the beautiful waters back and forth, you did not have the courtesy to tell anybody what you were going to do, and you just do this in the dead of night? How can we trust? How can we trust? How can we trust government? I am very pleased that this meeting is happening, and I'm very pleased that people are speaking frankly, and I am pleased that I found out about the meeting from a colleague, even though I wasn't invited. I'm glad I'm here. And I also am about solutions, and perhaps we need to take them back. I gather that they were moved at a significant sum. That question hasn't been asked, but we know what the sum is that they were moved at, and I would suggest that you take them back to where they were. Thank you.
I do believe if it had gone to cabinet, you would have known. This did not go to cabinet, because you would have been in cabinet around that time. Yeah, the amount is not over 100. It does not go to cabinet. It did not go to cabinet, just for the record. I did not say I'm moving by the 15th. I said I'm trying. I do not have a site as yet. I am looking furiously for a site. My ambition will be to get the cars moved by February 15th. I do not think movement back to where they were is an option. The idea of eminent domain, yes, I'll keep that in mind. Because there's some properties we're looking at that could be used for waste in general. I was just start there.
It is a crown lease, right? And in order to get a crown lease, there's a contract between you and the crown.
Contract is here, yes.
I mean, yeah, even these cars aren't going to move, and let's make him put them on a barge and send them to Santo Domingo or whoever took the last barge. But it wasn't us. If it's going to cost him money, that's his problem. It shouldn't be yours to solve.
I have a question I want to ask. I don't need the mic.
I want to ask, because we keep talking about putting things on badges and sending them to Santo Domingo. I don't know that you could just do that. But do you have money in the budget for 2025 to do that now? Or are we talking about supplementary provisions, which probably will not happen for another 3 months at the earliest?
Yes, sir.
I am not sure that there is money in the budget to move the cars as yet, because it takes a while to move enough cars to be able to get a badge to move them. The number of cars you see there is not enough for a badge. That's why we want to start collecting all the other derelict cars, which will take a while to do. And once we get the volume up, then we can consider moving the badge at that time. I imagine that will take a few months to do. The badge normally requires a certain tonnage. And the question was asked earlier about the cost to move it there. I cannot say, because I did not see a contract. Those things are handled by the department, not the ministry. Hence why I'm not really aware of some of these things. They are handled by the ministry.
You said February 15th?
It's my ambition.
That's your ambition? No. No. From how you're speaking, no, that's not gonna happen. Don't hold your breath. Y'all don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. Let's be more practical about the timeline. Let's be more practical on that. We're now in the ending of January. Okay? I get paid in the ending of January. And February 15 is Valentine, the day after Valentine's. Sorry. That's my birth month. It's right around the corner. You're talking about you need more cars? I've seen how fast these cars, derelict cars, have been getting up. They take forever because they don't have engines, most of them that work. So they're not going to get there fast enough. So February, no. February, March, April, May, June, July. July?
To move them?
August? To move them?
If I were a betting person, I'd bet you,
You would bet with me? Let's make this bet.
I'm not a
I
betting
bet
person.
you $200. I bet you my paycheck.
I am not a betting person.
Let's go.
I am not a betting person. I say if I were.
The 15 people that he can possibly get them moved to another place by the 15th. That's what he's saying.
It's my ambition. It's my ambition.
But yet while
It's
he
my
was
ambition.
answering Ms. Smith's question, it didn't sound like it can be moved. I don't know what y'all are thinking. Huh? There's no money.
No, I said there's no money to ship. I said to ship. To ship, not to move them, to ship. We'll find it.
I think the issue of money will be found.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to wait for a supplementary, we could do a warrant. But this being as crucial as it is, I can assure you that if those cars, that the reclaimed portion of the property cannot be used for anything, and if it is, it needs to be reversed. Permission would have to be granted by the government to do it, and it's not going to happen. So the virgin portion of the land is private and owned by whomever the person is on the name is on the draft lease. So that's something we have to look into. It's not signed yet. I don't know I know the government hasn't signed it as yet. Yes, sir.
Good evening, my name is Judith Charles. I do not live in Havers, but I live in Pocket Pond, so I understand why you are so insulted by being referred to as Upper Pocket Pond, because Pocket Pond is basically a garbage dump. I will be 75 years old this year, and as I look around this room, I don't see anyone who has had experience in the Pocket Pond Havers area except maybe Mr. Ketchum. Okay? So if I start talking about what I know for a fact, not what I think, I could tell you some of the melee I've heard about who actually owns that and why the original people who started that project no longer own it. Now it's owned by somebody else, and how that stuff came to get moved from where it was originally. And I surmise that the reason it was never moved from Mr. Ritter's property was because, one, it really wasn't seen except by people like me who live up the hill from it and can see it clearly every day. And so the person responsible for getting that stuff shipped out of here to wherever really was not pressed, because it wasn't really troubling anybody until Mr. Ritter said he wanted a whole lot more money to keep it, and y'all say you couldn't afford it, so you move it there. And when things happen in Pocket Pond like that, right, nobody who is involved, especially not government, tells you. So I have woken up in the morning on a Sunday, and I get dressed and I go into church, and I hear a backhoe beeping. And on my way to church, there is a man in a backhoe digging up my motherland. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Please don't tell me that Mr. So-and-so didn't tell you that he sent me here to dig this ditch." And I said, "Well, no, he didn't." But see, that's not new. It's not unusual or unheard of. Okay? That's how things are done. My mother inherited her property in Pocket Pond, a great deal of it that went all the way up to the ridge. And I always felt that I was a proud landowner in the BVI because I inherited from her. I was privileged to have my mother give me a piece of land for zero to build my house on. And currently, since my parents passed, I own their house. So I own 2 properties. But in 2020, my siblings, none of whom live here or will ever live here, decided they were selling their mother's property because now she was gone and my father was gone. So they sold every single thing. And at that point, I was actually glad because I was no longer a proud landowner in the BVI. I was so disgusted by the disrespect of just regular people and the government and how they treated that woman's property, that at this point, right, things like big, dirty car tires are in front of the entrance that I drive into because whoever was the brainiac that cleared the gut and then it proceeded to dump more junk into the gut that he was trying to clear, he left mud, dirt, and garbage, including that big tire, right at the entrance that I have to drive through. So the first time I came home and saw that, I had to drive. Anyway, it was difficult getting into the entrance of the place where I live. So I am not surprised that people showed up in front of your property and dump cars there in the dead of night, because that's how things are done in the West. Okay? I can also tell you that more than 20 years ago, the government of that day paid for a survey of Pocket Pond to mitigate the flooding problem down there. And a meeting was called in the government office that ordered that work to be done. And of all the landholders that were going to be affected or that were affected by the flooding, so we're talking Delta and Mr. Wells and me and everybody who owns property around it. And one of the property owners was a Mr. Smith. And some of the mitigation had to go across Mr. Smith's land and it had to go across Delta, which is where the water goes when it comes down out of the 3 or 4 guts in that particular area. But Mr. Smith refused to have anything. And non-engineers were offering Mr. Smith alternatives to the process that the engineers had proposed. And he refused every one. And I asked the permanent secretary at that time, so what's going to happen now? And she said that the government will have to do what is in the best interest of the majority of the people. So when Ms. Smith here talks about eminent domain, that does not exist. You cannot tell people in this country what to do with their land. The only people you could tell is people like me. Okay? So you could tell Naomi Gregg when she was alive what she could do with her property, or you could just walk on it, send her back home and dig the hell out of it without so much as a by your leave. When the drainage was put in from the gut that comes down through our property to across the street by Delta, they dug the entire front of that woman's property up. They dig down every plant, flower, you name it, and they put in inadequate drainage system, and of course it doesn't really work. To this day, the drainage situation in Pocket Pond gets worse. There was, in June, when it flooded, I couldn't get to my house. I had to sleep in a hotel in West End because it wasn't until the next day in the afternoon that everything was cleared and I could actually get to my house. So that is just a little history, people, of how things work in this country when you are a property owner. Okay? So, which is what leads me to tell you that I am so glad that I own very little, if anything, in this country anymore. And where I live right now currently, I'm not certain how much longer I'll be able to live there safely. I might actually have to move. So if you know of a place where an office manager on a regular salary could afford to rent, I'd be happy to hear from you. Thank you.
Good evening again. Both honorables, if either one of you can answer this question for me. Ingrid earlier mentioned environmental impact assessment for the area. So I'm going to go down what I'm concerned about again. Thank you for your responses earlier, both of you. It's a storage facility or site now, but we're going to collect the derelict vehicles from across the territory which have not been processed. That means the engines, the transmissions, all the fluids, everything. Are they going to be processed before they're carried there? If they're not, then what's going to happen there is that all that fluid is going to leak in, possibly through spillage, leak into the ground that's reclaimed, it's going to hit the reefs, it's going to heat all of that, and we know that coastline goes that way, which means it's going to carry it further down. I don't believe in conspiracy plans, but is there just a plan to reclaim all the land from Havers all the way down past Coxie, which is the third? Because I'm seeing it, and I'm just questioning it. But I'm very much concerned because if you're going to carry fresh, unprocessed vehicles there, you're creating another problem because it's not just storage, it's not processing. Thanks.
Yes. I really can't answer the question. I haven't seen the particulars of the contract. I haven't even seen the contract. I only know one exists, so I really can't answer. But I'll be very surprised if the landowner agreed to something like that. I'll be very surprised.
This is just a comment and for information purposes. So I'm making this comment on behalf of Miss Diana Bruce. She isn't here. But from the time this thing happened, it bothered me with concern because she's sitting right on top of it. And for those of you who don't know who Diana Bruce is, in the House of Assembly, her father was a member of the House of Assembly. His picture is on the wall. And she has to be over 75 years old. And every day I think about her because it's going to make her sick. Because she's sitting, Laurie's there, but she's sitting, when she's sitting at her table, it is right there in front of her. So I'm just saying, you gave a deadline, I need a deadline. And the reason I'm asking a deadline for, I don't mean to say, is because I need a date when the government is going to commit to having it moved. Because if it's not moved by that time, then the residents are going to have to do what is necessary to have it moved. Because the question that Honorable Mater made, I forgot to mention that because it's a health risk. All of the oils, the gases, the leaks. Laurie smells it. Miss Bruce. God forbid, we don't want anybody's health to get affected anymore. So please, you said February 15th. I don't know if that's the date. But I need a date when the government is going to make a move to have it gone. So that the people of Havers can know that temporary industrial site that the government has created with a private entity. Contrary to what we know the law said, because that's an industrial site. That was residential, but that's not an industrial site. So we need to get a date because I think that's the only way anything is going to be done. If we don't, it's going to move from a storage area to a full industrial site. And you can't have 2 industrial sites, well, 3 in District 3. I was so moved by Miss No, her name fails me, Miss Judy. I can't imagine that. But that's what's now being played because she lives, Miss Charles lives in it, but everybody in Havers now, because one side of Havers is directly on Cockwood Pond, the westernly side. We can't afford it. So Honorable Fraser, Honorable Wheatley, you said you have an alternative, something in mind. There were three persons who tendered, one person got it. I suggest you move to those other two persons, have some conversation, do something, because lip service isn't going to work. There's too much at stake. It's people's health, their livelihood, and we can't afford that at all. And I just wanted to put it on the record because Ms. Booth is one of the persons who is constantly in my mind because I know it has to be affecting us. Big time. So I just wanted to say that.
Let me just say I really appreciate the comments. I appreciate your passionate plea. I cannot give you a definitive date because we have to go to final site and then negotiate. I'll tell you what my ambition is, just to make you understand. I really hear you. I hear you, I feel your pain. You've been very passionate, all of you, with your questions, with your presentations. I want with alacrity to get this problem resolved. I'm going to do as quickly as I can. I am working on it. I cannot tell you this tomorrow or the next day or next week. I'm going to get it done as quickly as I can. With God on my side, I'm going to get it done. But they have faith in me, and that doesn't even matter to me. I am working to get this problem solved. I'm not playing on lip service. I am working to get it solved. Y'all see me once in a while. I see him every single day. He's on my back every single day. So what you're telling me, he's already told me a million times. I haven't got to him to explain to him what I'm doing as it, because I want to come and listen to you. You've helped me with some ammunition to go back and say, listen, we have to work on this overtime. I don't want to come back here to hear this again, you know. I don't want about to be calling me a month from now and say, Minister, you promised this, but it's gotten worse. I do not want that. Because I know you will come back here in a month's time if nothing has happened. So I want to work as seriously as I can to get this problem rectified. To where it's a place where it's not affecting as many persons, it's not creating all the havoc, all the emotional trauma, the health concerns, and so forth. That's all I can tell you right now. I'm doing all I can.
My last comment, Minister and Honorable Fraser. I do think that, and I agree that we don't seem to believe in compulsory acquisition. But Minister Wheatley knows that the baths, which were owned by Dr. O'Neill for rolling years, were acquired compulsorily. We had to pay through our noses. But look at what we have now. Look at what is a BBI treasure. This isn't going to be the same. I believe that there are other pieces of property that we have acquired on the same basis by eminent domain. So even though it's not a popular thing to do, we might not have to do it even Honorable Fraser with the horse races, if you want to have the racing, but that's another subject. But I would suggest to you, wherever you're going, that is probably what you're going to have to do. I'm glad you're willing to consider it. But you're not going to be able to please everybody, as you yourself recognize. But the best place, a place where you have done all your environmental checks and everything, a place that is not visually damaging, a visual disadvantage that will not disadvantage property owners. I'm sure a place can be found. But I am again urging you, and you have given your word that you're going to move very quickly to take that thing up, take that mess up from where it is.
Mr. Do you have any suggestions or place we can take for this? If you do, you don't have to answer now. Please let me know, and I will move forward if it's amenable to do so.
I don't want good evening, I'm Leroy Moses. I have a clear view of the dump. I recall, 2010, when my sister and I went to Havers for property for sale. She's inside with the landowner, checking out the house, and all I did was watching the view. And when the property owner came out, asking how much to take it off the market. I moved from in town to Havers because of the view, because of the tranquility. I recall a young lad doing brokerage, doing delivery to your dad's home with the magazines. I love where it's peaceful, somewhat gated, but this has to go. We just need to just say they're gonna move tomorrow, and then that's it. There are 3 bids. Go to the second bidder, or the third. There's no need to look, you already have 2 other bids for this project. What are the reasons why to choose this one? That I'm gone. That cannot stay there. Because if I have to go to the bank or use my property or anything, who's going to give me the shortfall? That's a big issue here. I'm appalled that this even happened during Christmas. It happened or even telling us something. Disrespect. So telling me any nice thing ain't gonna make me feel better. It just has to move and move now. That's the only reasonable answer I can accept, considering what has happened without even the decency to say this may happen. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I really must say it's quite unfortunate, and I do apologize for the way this happened. I didn't caught everybody by surprise. And I'll just repeat what I said. I hear you made a passionate case, a definitive case. I'm convinced it should have never happened to begin with. I agree. We're going to move forward, we're going to rectify it. I'll say for one more question, unfortunately I have a ferry to catch. So I have to leave after this question.
Good evening. My name is Chris Simpson. I've lived on Havers for 22 years now, and I look down on that too. I'll keep it brief. Following up on Leroy's, sorry, I've got a little passionate. This really is very upsetting for us all. But following up on Leroy's point, it's got to go now. It's got to go very soon. The government has resources. A thought that occurred to me is to get a couple of very large barges, park them there, put up a ramp, and drive that shit onto the barges all day long, a couple of days, and it's all done. If you have a problem as to where to put that barge, may I suggest perhaps, and I know somebody's got to look at it, but maybe perhaps off Fish Bay, on those commercial moorings, until we can find somebody that wishes to buy that or take it away from us. And I think that would be an immediate solution, which is not cheap, but this has got to go very soon, guys. Thank you very much.
I thank you for your suggestion.
And can I say, when it goes, it should come back. Yeah.
You can get one more of this?
Just adding one more thing to you guys. You love the BVI? I'm asking you both, do you love the BVI? Because if you love the BVI,
let me answer you. I love it, and I love it. And you can't love the BVI any more than I do. I'll say just like the premier, you could only love it as much.
Okay. Well, I love it so much, you don't know. Okay? I have a young friend who has become a captain, and he sails this same channel here. Okay? And he brings tourists to the BVI, and that's part of our pillar. One of our pillars is already gone, another pillar is dropping, and here is our next pillar. And with this view, as y'all continue to destroy us, what are you giving us left? What are you going to leave us with? That's another question for you. Do you love the BVI? My young captain friend said he is ashamed when the tourists see what we have just done. And he said he has to bow his head and say, I don't know, because he's ashamed. And we should be ashamed as a government. You all should be ashamed. That should never have gone there.
Actually, the passion that I'm seeing from you folks this evening, I admire. And I think it's absolutely and totally necessary. This passion should not, you asked a question about the Virgin Islands, yes. Meaning it's not just Harvard's, it's the entire Virgin Islands. Right. You know the living hell that I had to get that stuff from up here? When you went to the horse races, you saw them, and it was abominable. When it became so abominable, that instead of moving them, they put up a silk curtain. So when you're at the races, you couldn't see it. The point I'm trying to make is that when they move from there, wherever they go, I want to see the same passion from you, even though it's in a different place. The government some 20 years ago passed a piece of legislation, it's got to be about 20 years, passed a piece of legislation whereby a fee was exacted from a person bringing in a vehicle to the territory to make sure that it was used to have it exported or disposed of or whatever the case is. The Honorable Member Smith used some words that I don't think I could use and get away with. But the government didn't have those things to collect the money from the people. And to this day, they haven't collected a dime from the people who bring cars in. So, this is what it takes to make a democracy work. The people. And I think that the minister and myself, the two members at large, who has equal responsibility for the district as us, as me, have heard as well. And I don't know, I did not invite my colleagues in government, the politicians, because I wanted you to come here and be heard. And as you would see, the way Ms. Smith carried on tonight, you would see maybe I had a little merit in not bringing her here tonight. But it was necessary for her to be here, and I think that the message that she brought here, I don't want her in the House of Assembly with it. So we need to get this thing done before we go back to the House. She could promise me that if we get it done before we go back to the House, she wouldn't come into the House for Assembly.
Can I just give you two quick places where you can take that? And you have to be really
don't say it in public, please. Just WhatsApp me directly.
quick things.
Do not say it in public. I want to fight before I start.
Is already, and I saw all the tourists that you all charge that environmental fee, you should be asking for their money back. If I was paying that money, I'd want it back. So take it to Prospect Reef, because that would be taken by all the bush and the things. Even the skeletons that live on the hill above that Prospect Reef wouldn't see that mess because it's full of bush. Or, to be even more real, tear down the incinerator because y'all never gonna fix it, ever, and you know this. So let's not park any rubbish. Tear down the incinerator and take it there. Where the incinerator is already a dump. Take the garbage to the dump. And please, so that the people in the esteemed neighborhood of Havers don't have to hear themselves being called Upper Parkwood Park.
Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I do have to leave to drive all to Travis Bay to catch my ferry home. But I really want to thank you for your brutal honesty and your passion about an issue that really affects you greatly. I give my word, I'll be working with Honorable Fraser, Honorable Milton, and Honorable Smith to bring this to a speedy resolution. Kathy is recording this, so she'll hear me saying a speedy resolution. As quickly as I can get these cars moved. I know my colleagues will not let me rest, even call when I get home, tell me where it is, tell me where it is. I cannot tell them because I'm working a couple of locations. But I am working on this from day one I knew it was going to be a problem. I didn't think this big a problem. But your passion for getting this resolved is, I get it. I get it. I say, two other members are here, we sit together, he and I sit together a couple times a week. He will not let me rest. I don't want to come back here to you with your boot of honesty again. When I come back, I want to say, it is gone. That's all I want to come back and say. It is gone. Thank you.
Can we rest assured that it won't go here in time?
What? Go back there? I don't want to come back here to this kind of torture. No, it's not going back there. I'll have to push that back. I'll have to push that back because I'm not going to make the problem any bigger. That won't make any sense to make it any bigger. But ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming out. Really appreciate you coming out and again for your brutal honesty in addressing your concerns. Thank you.
I want to thank the minister for coming this evening, and I wish him a safe trip home. And he has a lot to think about tonight because I can see that you all are serious, and I believe that we can solve this problem. I believe the premier is on board as well because he got the contract. He got the contract for signature, and instead of signing it, he gave it to us. He wants to know what we think. So here we are. So I think that we can adjourn. Meeting is adjourned.
Kim.